All right, Adam, game number 11 for the Buffaloes this week. They're going up to Pullman, which you and I are heading up there, and we've never had good experiences up there. But as Coach Prime, he was asked about that today. He goes, hey, that was BCP, before Coach Prime, and that makes a good point, right? So he's never had a bad experience up there. He's hoping he doesn't this week. But, talked about this week, and lots of different topics, as always, with Coach Prime. And, talked about the theft at UCLA, lots of different things today.
Yeah, and then obviously what Stephen A. Smith said about the Texas A&M opening. So the press conferences continue to be a little unconventional in that sense. Going to the UCLA thefts, I thought he had a great message. And I've seen on the message board folks trying to figure out who these unofficial visitors might have been, recruits from the high school that got named. And I love his point that, hey, think about when you were 17 or 18. And it's like, yep, made some stupid mistakes when I was 17 and 18. Yep. So after hearing that, it's like, as long as whatever punishment's handed out that those kids do, then yeah, I agree with them. Hey, like, we probably don't need to be putting out more information than there is right now.
Yeah, I mean, it made me think of a situation years ago. Paul Richardson, remember at UCLA, he and a couple of his friends were involved in a situation like that. Gets kicked off the UCLA's team, comes here, has a great career at Colorado, goes on to the NFL, made up for it, right? And there was never another incident after that. And so it was, I think Paul Richardson would even say that was a dumb mistake. As Coach Prime said, it was a dumb mistake these kids made, and move on. And from the reports, some of these guys have gotten their stuff back. Amari McNeill said he's still working through that issue to get those things back, but hopefully they get everything back. And as far as the Texas A&M thing, he said, hey, I'm here. This is where I am. My family's here. And, he just kind of, as you expected, he kind of, brushed that aside.
Yeah, and maybe there's some Colorado fans that wish he would have done what Dan Lanning did, where he comes out and says there's, quote, zero chance I'm doing that. Mm-hmm. He didn't say that, but, there are so many reasons for him that don't line up with that job opening, right? That just, it doesn't seem like the right fit, the right timing. And, I get that he's got some history in Texas and still has a house there. But to me, that's not the job that you take in the situation you are right now. Yeah. Colorado's in a place right now, and they are, as he said many, many times, 7 to 8 dogs. And you take that to mean elite football players away from being where he wants them to be, and you're going to a Big 12 that's going to be wide open next season. Yeah. You don't want to have to deal with all the eligibility stuff with Shedeur and Shiloh and Travis Hunter, who's basically another son of his. And, it wouldn't make any sense. And A&M's boosters are so involved. They run that program. Yeah. And Coach Prime, he's got a blueprint that he wants to work off, and I don't see that as a good marriage if he even were to entertain it. But at the same time, if you're a coach, and I'm not speaking for Coach Prime, but if I was in his shoes, I'd imagine I'd kind of want rumors out there a little bit. That's good for your brand, but you also do have to combat that a little bit on the recruiting trail. Coach Prime said he hasn't had to do that yet, but they lost Winston Watkins, a commit, and he comes out and says, well, I don't know if Coach Prime's going to be in there a couple years. So Coach Prime is going to have to deal with the negative recruiting that's out there. You can't be an ostrich, stick your head in the ground, and ignore that. That's something you're going to have to address head on in December on the recruiting trail. But for there to be some rumor circulating, Stephen A. Smith saying whatever he says on ESPN, that's not bad for Coach Prime and his brand.
And we're inside now because obviously, as we saw, the wind didn't, or the phone didn't hold up to the wind here. So we're inside. Let's finish that thought.
I want to nickname your cell phone Shedeur Sanders because it took a licking, but it's still working. No cracked screen, But yeah, we moved it inside. Let's get your phone an injection and go back out there.
It's got to get the Buffalo Heart Award for devices, right? But yeah, let's finish the thought. I mean, you're talking about like the recruiting impact that there could be with all the rumors, things like that.
Yeah, you're going to have to combat that when that happens, but. I am curious to see how recruiting looks. Last year it was kind of a rush deal, and it was really recruiting here on campus at CU. Yeah. And Coach Prime is a different coach. He's not going to be doing 100 in-home visits. But it's going to be interesting to see how that changes this December and January with the transfer portal, because he didn't do that last year. Yeah. And when guys like Kirby Smart and Nick Saban do that, you probably got to do that too. So yeah. I am anxious to see. And when you get in those living rooms, it comes off as more genuine in terms of, hey, this is the situation, and I want your son to come play in Boulder. And usually you can kind of offset that negative recruiting with those type of recruiting conversations.
Yeah. Well, speaking of guys that he recruited last year, a couple of them we got to talk to today, Amari McNeill and Cameron Silman Craig. And, we're talking about dogs. I mean, Cameron Silman Craig is one of those guys. And two guys that weren't in starting roles early in the season but have kind of grown into that. And they've played some pretty good football this year.
They don't hand out a most underrated award here, but I think if they did, Amari McNeill is probably a shoo-in at this point because he hasn't really gotten a lot of fanfare. It was great that we got a chance to talk to him in the press conference today because he deserves that recognition. He's only a sophomore, and he has developed into arguably their best defensive lineman. And so you look at the future, and he's got a very high ceiling. He came in from Tennessee last year, so he knew what big-time football looked like from the Power 5 level coming in here. And he's lived up to – and he's been a part of when you look at both lines and you go, gosh, they missed on so many transfer portal guys on the O-line. And that's why that group is struggling. Defensively, they hit on most of those guys, and Amari McNeill is one of the guys that's really stepped up to the challenge.
Yeah, it's almost a weekly thing now that he gets a tackle for loss, right? So he's doing a great job there. I think he had a half a sack with Leonard Payne this last week. It was his only tackle for loss, but that was an impactful sack. Cameron Silman Craig playing great football, one of the leaders in the Pac-12 interceptions. And he talked about how it's been an adjustment because he's never really played that close to the football before. He's always been that free safety role, but he's adjusted to it, and he's played some pretty good football.
He's got really good football instincts, and in general, as a defense, they've got some tackling issues that they got to fix, and they have shown improvement in the second half of the season, but there's quite a bit of room for improvement. Even Cameron Silman Craig can get a little bit better, but he's one of those guys that you love to root for because he maximizes his ability with that dog mentality that Coach Prime talks about. And I asked him about Jaden Milliner-Jones because I'm really excited about him. It was cool that Cameron Silman Craig said just today, Jaden Milliner-Jones joined me in the weight room from an extra session and talked about his high ceiling as well. That's a guy that flashes out there, and he's done it on special teams this year. He's part of their third down and long package defensively. So they've got some guys there, Roderick Ward is going to be graduating, moving on. Maybe you move Trevor Woods back to the back end of the secondary. Jaden Milliner-Jones is back there. You got some good pieces for safety for next season. Yeah,
Milliner-Jones the last few weeks, it's almost like a tackle every other play that he's out there. He's not playing a ton of plays, but he's getting a few tackles a game. So another freshman I asked about was Dylan Edwards that obviously had a phenomenal opening game against TCU, has not done as much, has not reached the end zone since that TCU game. And Coach Prime said, hey, that's on us. We've got to do a better job as coaches to get him the ball in space. And he said he's not a between the tackles guy. We got to do a better job of getting him on those plays on the outside. And I like that acknowledgement of that. And they've tried at times, but Dylan has just not gotten loose on those.
Yeah, defenses have been more ready for him since he scored 4 touchdowns in his first game, right? That's pretty natural. There have been some plays that have been there, though. And one time in particular, I remember Dylan Edwards dropped the ball. A couple other times, Shedeur has not put it on the money, and that's one area that Shedeur is so accurate and so tough. But on some of the screen passes, he's got to spend a lot of time this offseason working on those under duress because you got to lead your guy and put some touch on it. And a lot of those screen passes haven't had the touch and have led the guy into making a big play in open space.
Yeah, so lots of good stuff coming out from Coach Prime today. Anything else today?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just happy that your phone still works here.
The phone survived. We survived. So should we just call it a day and come back tomorrow for more analysis?
That's it. Let's do it.
Sounds good.